All righty. What's going on, Macro Perspective peeps? James here. Marcos and I, we've got an amazing guest, Caitlyn Casson. Am I saying that correctly?
You are. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Actually, a recommendation from Katie. I think that episode was welcomed. I think people really enjoyed that. I personally wanted to just kind of talk about that a lot more too. I was like, yo, Katie, I wish we could talk about the stress cycle stuff and managing burnout more and specifically because it was really well. But I think she put us together because you had worked with her, you spent some time with her, and you have an amazing dossier. I mean, your background, just kind of where you from. I mean, I'll let you do the elevator pitch, but guys, I'm super excited to have this connection just because I was able to get on the phone with Caitlyn and I think we just hit it off in a phone call. Never met this person before. I was like, yeah, let's do it. So thank you again, Caitlyn, for being here. I know your time is important. I know the work you do is important. So thank you for spending some time with me and Marcos. But yeah, would you mind just kind of for the audience that elevator pitch of like who you are, what you're into, and what work you do, and we'll just kind of have a good casual conversation from there.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I've been looking forward to this all week. It's Friday evening for me, so I'm pumped to chat with you guys. But yeah, so my name's Caitlyn Casson. I am a professional dancer, a yoga teacher, and a positive psychology facilitator. So I essentially use all of those elements in my one-on-one coaching work. And right now I'm working primarily with busy professional women who are trying to bring movement back into their life after a period of rest. So could be women who are coming back from postpartum or a surgery or a chronic health issue of some kind, or just women who are generally like very busy and in charge of a lot of things in their life and just kind of need someone to hold their hand and hold them accountable in terms of a daily movement practice. So yeah, that's what I do, and I'm excited to chat with you guys about it.
Daily movement practice. Go
Yeah.
go a little deeper. Just like walking or
Combo of a lot of things. So for some people who are coming back from a major health issue, for example, like their movement practice might look something like this. Let's say like we have a one-on-one live class in the week where we do functional strength training. I'm also a functional strength coach, and stretching and different mobility exercises to heal whatever the surgery was or the health issue was. And then let's say like one day they have, a long walk. Let's say another day I put up a link for a 30-minute core movement practice. Another day it might be a vinyasa yoga class. A different day it might be a 45-minute functional strength class. Every week we go in and we make a customized plan for them based on what their schedule looks like that week and what their goals are at that moment in time and what they might be healing from. So definitely walking is a part of movement, but also strength training, also mobility training, also yoga and mind body connection movements.
got it. So like complete flow, not subjected to just purely like the term movement as in like movement walking. So that
Yeah, walking is super important and I love walking. Definitely encourage it in the movement plans, but yeah, not the only piece.
yes, yeah, that's why I wanted to clarify because I think people are like, well, that doesn't sound like maybe much, but then now you just talked about live sessions one on one and then facilitating that in a capacity that man, if you haven't done it, it like, I mean, Seamus, have you done any remote coaching like that where you've actually like gotten like screen time with them?
Oh, dude. I mean, the first year of Zoom coaching and the lockdown, I became like an expert in coaching people via like, screens. And I would tell you this, dude, it's not even about coaching the movements because you could still coach and cue and give cues. It's almost being like a comedian because you cannot, I don't know if Caitlin's done this, but like you have to, there can't be any empty noise or empty space of more than like 7 seconds or like it just feels awkward. So when I replayed those Zoom videos, Marcos, it would be like I just started making jokes, and I wish I had those Zoom recordings because you can see all the jokes that I made. Some were horrible, some were great, and yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, I've had the capacity of doing it for sure.
Yeah, I feel like I had one patient that asked for like a Zoom coaching session we did it one time, and it was like a 1 hour just talk session. It wasn't even me getting into the movement stuff. And I was like, great. So we're going to do this again next week. And then it's never panned out. So unfortunately, I've never been, subjected to this, or maybe fortunately, I don't know. I mean, Caitlin, seems like it's definitely more of your thing. You might like that, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm a big fan of the virtual movement actually. Definitely not before COVID. It started during COVID. I got very used to connecting with people online, and I've just continued it because it's very easy for clients to stay more accountable. A lot of my clients are not based in New York City where I am. So I have like a client in Toronto, I have a client in Missouri. I have some clients who I see for live group classes in New York, and then we do this virtual movement and mindset training as well. So it's kind of a combo of a few different things. But I find that, like when my clients are traveling, we can still do our movement session. We don't have to worry about taking a break for a couple of weeks. And yeah, in that way, it's allowed all of us to stay a lot more accountable. And for me, it's nice too, because then, I don't have to travel anywhere. And if I am traveling, I can still do my sessions. It's
I
a
have a
nice way
question for
to,
you on that.
yeah.
Because you've been in this space for a long time. How did you feel your coaching got when you became more virtual? What I mean by that is like,
Mm,
as a coach, I mean, I don't try to do this all the time. I got reprimanded once by a professor in college. He's like, try not to be hands-on too much. But I mean, as a coach, like, you got to ask, like, hey, are you feeling it in this area? I need you to feel this shoulder or this like hip or whatever. Have you had to figure out like more cues and analogies and your like questions? Like, have you figured that out?
yeah, it's definitely a lot more of a back and forth now. I have to really ask people like, I don't like to say like, are you feeling it in this spot? I like to say, where are you feeling it? So that I know that if their answer is honest and I can be like, okay, that's not the right spot. We need to adjust the movement or adjust the stretch. Um, but yeah, definitely a lot more like back and forth on the virtual. I have to get a little more feedback from them than I would normally need in person when I can physically see a body right in front of my face.
Yeah, yeah, no, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. The
Yeah.
big thing though I want to touch point is so obviously movement, very important, but this positive psychology thing. I know you and I kind of hit
Yeah.
it up on that. Like Marcos and I have been kind of in that space, behavioral psychology, change psychology,
Yeah.
right, Marcos? Um, but positive psychology. I mean, can you speak upon that real quick, and then like how you emphasize that in your practices?
Yeah. So the best way I like to describe positive psychology is, essentially it's a scientific study of life worth living, human flourishing, like essentially like optimal life. But the way I really like to think of it is, a lot of times when people are struggling, we work on getting ourselves kind of back to baseline, and positive psychology is really focused on getting above the baseline or north of neutral, is how it is often described. Um, and yeah, we incorporate that into our work in a lot of ways. I find that a lot of my clients are not just craving a once a week training session or a movement class of some kind. They're looking to make movement a consistent piece of their life, and that often requires mindset transformation as well. So that's really how I incorporate positive psychology. Is we work on things like implementation intentions and yins and yangs of self-compassion, like knowing when to tune down our energy, calm down our nervous system, and also when to apply like the motivation and the fierce side of being compassionate to yourself. So yeah, it comes a little bit more into the mindset piece of how to make this a joyful piece of your life and something that you want to do. It shouldn't be, something that you like have to do every day. It should be fun.
I have like more of a selfish question. Maybe Marcos and I can appreciate this. Because Marcos and I are like, as coaches, like we've leaned on like being logical for a long time. I know I could say that for myself, or just like saying as it is. How are you able to like tell someone or coach someone into like that kind of mindset when, I know for a long time for me as a coach, it's like, just macros or fitness or just like get this thing going. And it's like, how do you really like go like, are we really addressing your mindset and like this is what we've got to do? How have you gotten yourself to like get them to do that. Like, like it's like a hard thing.
Certainly a hard thing. Baby steps, like one little thing at a time. Truly, we go week by week. Sometimes it's like at first it's usually incorporating movement into the daily practice again. Because like most of my clients are people who have zero movement in their life at the moment. So we do a big schedule audit. We talk about hidden times in their day. And sometimes we start with just 5 minutes of movement a day. Or like I had one client who was like, I can do 25 minutes of movement, but only 3 times a week. I'm like, okay, this is where we're starting, and that's fine. We can start at the bottom and we can start working our way up. But yeah, that's my approach in all things is like start small, get those little wins, start feeling good, and then we can increase, right? Like we can make the time a little bit longer. We can make the workouts a little more challenging. We can make the techniques that we're working through mentally also more stimulating. It's like we can pick up, but we have to get that bottom starting line in a successful place for people to actually feel good. Because I find that like a lot of clients, especially at the beginning, like if they're like in it, right? For the first couple of weeks, it's all going well. And then at some point, something happens, like life does life's on us, and they fall off the wagon. And it's very, very hard to get people to get back into that consistency routine again at first. So especially if it's like we've gone too far too quickly, so starting with the baby steps is really, really helpful. And letting yourself feel successful with that and then adding on to it as you go, picking up a momentum.
Yeah.
The time audit is a interesting phrase to be said, I guess. I don't think I've heard it that way, but I guess that's like kind of the calendar, right? Is that your terminology, or did you hear that from somebody else?
Schedule audit, or sometimes I say like a schedule deep dive. Interchange the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great utilization of getting people started, because again, you have to figure out the time that's going to obviously work amidst getting the practice of basic movement into their day-to-day. And then do most of these people have like some other goal that's driving them to start with the movement and then kind of bridge them to, I don't know, X activity, gym going, swimming, whatever? Like, is that usually what they're like? Again, like they understand that like the movement piece is like the baby step to then get to those things, or what does that usually look like for you?
What a lot of my clients tell me is that they want to be able to, this is like the exact words I often hear. I want to be able to do the things I used to be able to do easily, which might be like running or hiking without getting out of breath, or swimming, or like one client like used to play tennis all the time and now like that's hard for her. So I don't know if there's an end game necessarily to like go to the gym 7 days a week. That's not really the type of people that I work with. But there's definitely a desire to want to have a more movement-oriented life that feels easy versus, like taking a 20-minute walk for some of my clients, at least at first, is hard. And previously, in a lot of cases, that wasn't the case. So they're looking to get back into this like lifestyle where movement feels comfortable, it feels easy, it feels fun again, and it's just naturally a part of their life. But that requires concentrated effort to get it back to there.
Oh yeah, and identifying when you can piece it in. It's like, I mean, I guess all the rage right now in the literature might be like exercise snacks for people that are trying to like, and again, like it's always about like how you can sell it to people, right? And I'm for it. Like, it's funny because like I've had tremendous progress with exercise snacks because it was like I was beholden to this location, but there was a spot where I could do pull-ups and some push-ups on the floor before transferring to the next station when I was like 20 years old, and all I cared about was fitness. But you know what I mean? Like I felt like I was losing something, and I look back, I was like, I was effectively doing that. Like I would just do one set like every hour or two, and I mean, I could easily do that when I'm at home at times, but my exercise snacks now are like, it probably makes more sense to call somebody and be productive and just walk, but you're even saying that these people can't even just take a call and go for a walk at their starting point, which is
sometimes,
I mean, sometimes it feels a little unfathomable, but again, there has to be a coach like you that is able to like motivate and get them to realistic things and go, because I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm like kind of dumbfounded, but I'm also not surprised, like that this is something that people would start at. Like again, that's just me being like the health professional, but it's crazy. So, I mean, did you start with like a level of like, I mean, is it occupational therapy? Is that where people kind of are like going into getting that shame? Is that the right word? I'm always feel like I'm,
Yeah, maybe. It is. Yeah, occupational therapy is more like the dexterity things, just the things that they need to do day to day.
yeah.
Even if it's like putting on a shirt button, things like that, or even just like getting up to walk and stuff. That's like post injury. I think, Caitlin, you're probably not necessarily post injury, but just someone that's just been, um, it just hasn't been part of their life for some time.
Exactly. And yeah, I'm definitely not an occupational therapist by any means. I'd say I often find clients who are post injury or surgery and post PT, and now they're at the point where they have to implement these things on their own on a consistent basis, and they want to get stronger, right? Like physical therapy has shown them some techniques for that specific spot, but now they want their whole body to feel stronger. They want to feel confident again, and they're at that point where like they just don't really know what to do, and oftentimes like don't know how to hold themselves accountable, at least at first. So that's what we work on
Yeah.
implementing for them.
Makes a ton of sense. And I guess like it's funny because today's kind of been like the moments where I'm like, oh, that makes there is a logical step that is in between, like going from again having the accountability of the personal, the PT, right, and then going into a place where like you're not going right to a personal trainer, right? You're going from physical therapist to probably somebody else, then to maybe getting to the next level. But I guess I just haven't. I mean, my mom would probably benefit from it after her knee surgery to have some people like that, where she's like, yeah, you still need to do this other stuff as part of your homework and your, again, like your movement flow that helps with like the scar tissue of the knee. Um, I guess like I just never, man, there's a niche for everything, isn't there? But I mean, like, obviously it also probably is where you get to incorporate your passion, right? Cause like, I know the dance element is probably something that you like teaching people like steps. Is that something that you're using as part of that? Integrating
No,
that in there?
actually, yeah,
No,
no, not
really?
so much
Oh,
dance. I really pull from yoga. I've been teaching yoga for 13 years now. I'm a functional strength coach, so I pull a lot from that, especially with people recovering from injuries. And I'm also certified in mobility and conditioning, so I pull a lot from that. And then I've done a ton of like flexibility and contortion trainings, and also just like as a dancer for all of my life, have a lot of experience and techniques around how to become more flexible. So I really pull from those things. If I had a client who was like super interested in learning contemporary dance or ballet, I'd be happy to incorporate little bits and pieces from it. But that isn't what I usually draw from for these clients.
yeah, that's surprising. So then the dance thing is like a completely separate passion then slash
Yeah,
profession.
kind of. I mean, but yeah, it's my profession really. I've been dancing since I was 4, and then studied dance and psychology in college, and then moved to New York pretty soon after college and have been working as a professional dancer here since then, and still am. I actually just was living in South Africa for 6 months working with a choreographer there on a show. Um, so I just got back to New York a couple months ago. And then, yeah, I've been teaching yoga since college as well. So I've kind of been just doing like dancing as a dancer in shows, and teaching yoga in gyms and studios. And like those two things worked simultaneously for a long time. And then probably 2018, 2019, a little bit before COVID, I was really interested in blending those worlds together. That was also when I started studying positive psychology, and started just doing more mobility training, flexibility and contortion training. I was like, okay, I'm amassing like a lot of information and techniques. I need to find a way to like bridge these worlds together. So I started playing with that through like live workshops at the studios and gyms I teach at pre-COVID. And then during COVID, was when I really started putting together courses and online workshops and one-on-one programming that allowed me to bring all of these different things into a more holistic coaching opportunity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like a polymath of sorts in movement. You've done like all these forms of movement, traveled the world, done it. I'll be honest with you. Dance is hard. Marcos, I don't know if you've ever like done dance, but like I'm technically a collegiate athlete, and like hard stuff. Like, but I did a hip hop dance like course for a year. I'm telling you
Wow,
right
good
now,
for you.
like hip hop dance is like insane, but part of it, like part of that curriculum, because in kinesiology you could take like extracurriculars, and like I did a whole year of dance, and I did ballet as well. And I'm telling you right now, both are hard. Like they're so hard. And then like
Yes, they
I,
are.
when we were going through that ballet, they would talk about educating us on like the history of ballet, and it's like, little girls do it from this age, and like that's why their foot is shaped this way. And I'm like, dude, like I'm just trying to do this for like 5 minutes. My foot can't even take the pressure of this like plie right now. My knees can't even do
Hmm.
it. And I'm over here like Marcos, I'm like squatting 405 2 times, like, and I was like, let's go. And then I can't even do a plie, you know what I'm saying? It's like, what's wrong with me?
It's a whole different world. I'm so happy that you got to experience both ballet and hip hop. Because it's a whole nother level of strength and also like mental focus and clarity that you have to use to, I mean, a plie is just bending your knees, but it's traction in the ankles and the knees and the hips. And it's such a small movement, but you're right, it's hard. And if you haven't had that range of movement from a young age, it can be harder to find it as an adult.
Yeah, yeah. And also
Shit,
too
I
the
can hardly touch my
focus.
toes, let alone try to do something like that requires stacking joints and moving a certain way.
Yeah, I mean the focus too, but the thing is, it's like I think one of the things that movement has, like I think I like this is the part where I like what you're doing probably is like part of it is blending choreography, right? Like I think like, you know, for fitness people, like I just did like a half marathon. I'm like doing this high rock stuff. It's like, you kind of have like this event where it's like, all right, you got to blend these things together. You got to run through it. Maybe it's like a squat, maybe it's a workout, but you're just kind of going through it. Sometimes you could do workouts and you can just move through the motions. But when you're doing like
Mhm.
a choreography, like there's no like going through the motions. You have to do it right or it just doesn't look good. Like dance is just so as a form of movement, it's really difficult because like part of my struggle when I was doing hip hop is like we had a 5 minute choreography like every few weeks we were like changing it up and like you're having to learn that 5 minute choreography and you're like I can't like 5 minutes like my head was hurting just thinking about like the combinations and it's like but it's the things that but it's just the way you put it together. um yeah, I don't know, it's just it's a different type of intelligence is like the best way I can
Mm.
explain it.
Yeah, and it's physical, it's your body remembering. Eventually, I'm sure, like, maybe you experienced this in your hip hop class, but like, with choreography that, let's say we learn it in January and we're performing it in March or something. By March, my body knows that. Like, even if in the moment before I go on stage, my mind is like, what's the first movement? As soon as the music goes on and I step on stage, my body's going to do the right thing. Like, I know that that's going to happen. It's like that physical memory, that patterning in that your body really remembers, even when your mind kind of loses track.
Yeah, no, for sure. So are you still doing a ton of dance on top of the work you're doing? Like are you doing like shows and stuff?
Yeah, I came from rehearsal today, actually. We,
Uh-huh.
yeah, we have some shows happening in the spring in New York. So we're kind of in rehearsal creating new work at the moment. Not a lot of performances this fall, but we will have some in the spring. So we're in creation mode at the moment.
This is what kind of show? Like it's not like a named like what's the choreography? Is it just like I don't know, like I don't even know how to ask the question. Like what is the show? I guess can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not on Broadway. It's not like a specific show, but basically it's contemporary dance, which is generally a fusion of many different dance styles. Certainly ballet, sometimes hip hop, sometimes breaking, sometimes modern dance. It can be a blend and fusion of a lot of different styles. And a show would be like contemporary dance works. So sometimes there would be a show that, let's say, is one piece and is 75 minutes long, divided into two sections. So, like, you do the first half of the show, there'd be a short intermission, then you do the second half of the show, but it's all one piece. And sometimes you could have a show where it's like five pieces that are 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 13 minutes, all different themes, all different styles, all different costumes, but they would be considered like repertoire. So it'd be like five different dances.
Cool.
Got it. Okay. I didn't even
Dang.
know that. Why do I feel like this is like news to me? I didn't even realize that like stuff that's like this actually existed. I mean, I think ballet, I think the Nutcracker, and just, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like that's
it's good.
just,
It's good to know that.
well, I mean, I'd be
He's
living under a
a
rock.
cultured man.
I'm a little more cultured than I lead on to believe. I actually really love Broadway musicals, and I'm blown away at, I mean, everything that goes on in terms of the inner working of like the system. I actually have a client that is a, like, I mean, like a performance manager for multiple traveling shows, actually. So he's gone from Aladdin to Frozen into his next endeavor. And I was like, dude, are you ever not going to be on the road? And he's like, you know, I like, I kind of like it, you know, like, but yeah, I was like, yeah, but getting hunkered down and like being in like the same city for more than 2 weeks would be pretty sick too, right? He's like, yeah, there is that component of it. So, you know, I get the inner workings of like, I mean, for his like back end, right, where people are like, you know, the other staffers, not necessarily the people that are actually on or in the show, right? He's just talking about like, we have to like actually hit our timing within like a 1 minute window for the whole overall like first half, second half of that, you know, intermission needs to be this. And every single show is like quote unquote recorded for quality assurance purposes. And I was like, it's a lot of stress. Like, this is all, I was like, tell me more about this world I know absolutely nothing about.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on. I mean, that goes back to the idea of choreography, right? Like there's choreography that goes on behind the scenes with the stage technicians and the lighting and
Mhm.
you know, just even like if there's a show where there's like multiple dance companies, let's say, like there's coordination of which company is allowed backstage at this time and which one's allowed in the dressing room at this time, right? Like there's all this coordination that goes on, similar to, you know, training as well, right? Like you're putting on a lot as a trainer behind the scenes that your clients might not see in the front facing moment of it.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I actually have written some programs for our patient base, and I'm like, to me, it just feels like it's not a lot. And then like I go do it, and I was like, yeah, maybe it's too much for me even. And then I was like, I really can't program for this for people. And then I start people out with like, again, what would be like, again, if I program for myself, I'm like trying to give them like maybe 2/3 the work, you know? It's like, that makes sense. And then I go into the gym with someone that was like, I mean, had very minimal experience, and I haven't really hands-on coached in a while. And I was like kind of blown away. I was like, oh, I have to rewrite this again. I was like going back to auditing, you know, I had to audit the actual day, and I'm actually super appreciative to get the hands-on experience because I mean, after doing so much virtual stuff and primarily only diving into nutrition coaching myself personally, it's kind of nice to be like, oh, I actually kind of suck at writing a game plan that is like traditional lifting for other people versus CrossFit. It's a very, very interesting problem to have.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of interesting. Yeah, Caitlin, how do you manage both? Like it's crazy because you have a very physically active schedule because like I wanted to be like a pursuing athlete and working professional at the same time. Like, I'm kind of going back on that trend right now. But like
Yes.
back in the day, I was like, after my wrestling career, I was like going hard into jits and I was like competing and I was like on a competition cycle. So it's kind of similar to this like dance work that you're doing. So I was training a lot, but then also I'm a trainer on the floor, you know? So it's like you're moving for 2 to 3 hours for training daily, but then you also have to like give your energy to people, right, all day, and you're getting physically active with them. Like how have you managed like your energy throughout this? Like how
Mm.
have you kept your positive psychology? You know what I'm saying? Like this hard stuff.
It is hard stuff. It is a daily practice. Yeah, I mean, I am very organized with my schedule because I do have so much going on in my life. And yeah, and so actually, this is like how I started doing one-on-one coaching for like specifically for people who want to bring a daily movement practice in was because I move so much. So much of my life and work is movement. But for many, many years, I didn't have a consistent daily movement practice. So I
Hmm.
would be in rehearsal and class all day and would teach, you know, 2 or 3 live. I wasn't doing a lot of one on one at that time. So it would be like, you know, 2 to 3 classes each day. Sometimes like additional training, whatever, you know, like walking to and from all these classes, so much movement. But I didn't necessarily have like a daily set practice. You know, I'd go to a ballet class this day or a yoga class this day or the gym this day, but it just wasn't consistent and it wasn't clear at all. And then during COVID, I finally had so much more time in my life and I got really consistent with myself. Every morning I woke up, I put down my mat and I would do a practice. And so it's different every day. Like I do a lot of like sculpting style classes is kind of like my go-to, but some days I do heavier weights. Some days I do flow. Some days I'll do something really gentle. But every day I wake up, I put down my mat, I do it right in my house, and I get in 30 to 60 minutes of movement. 45 is my ideal. If I have a day where I have more time, I'll go for an hour. And if I'm squished for time, I do more like 30. But that completely changed my health. It made my body so much stronger. I mean, I look a lot different than I used to. It made my mind so much more clear. I was struggling a lot with brain fog many years ago, and this has helped me so much. And also, I feel proud of myself. I'm like, first thing in the day, I got in my movement practice, and it's like, some days I would love to like do a movement practice, do a meditation, do my journaling, read my book. Like I'd love to do all those things every day, but I can't, right? Like life doesn't let me do that. But I'm committed to this daily movement practice. And like, hey, if there's a day when I get to do an extra 5-minute meditation, great. We love that day, But yeah, for me, just like getting in a very, very consistent movement practice every single day has completely changed how I live my life and how I feel in my body and in my mind and in my soul. So I'm very, very passionate about sharing that with other people because I know that even for me as a movement professional, I didn't have this and it has changed my life to have this.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Marcos and I talk about this a lot about like, there's just so many moving variables in like your schedule. I don't know if you have kids or anything. Marcos does, I don't, but it's like,
She just said she was in South Africa for 6 months and then back to New York. She definitely doesn't have kids, Seamus.
I should probably listen to context clues, Marcos. I'm stupid, bro. Like, dang. But like every day having something on the calendar. Like I personally like to start my day with training, like you. It's if I don't get it in early, like I'm just like I don't know. Like this whole brain
It's not
fog thing you're
happening.
talking about, like it's just not happening, and
Yeah.
then I'm not gonna have a good day. So like for me, it just sets the tone. Even if like so, for example, like even if I don't train on a day, I do something else similar. Like you're talking about like a mindfulness practice, like a journaling or breath work or something like that. I do breath work and like infrared sauna and cold exposure. So it's like there's this like at least there's this like grounding thing for me at the beginning of the day to start. Even though like I'm not doing like a physical rep or something like that or cardio or mobility. There's just so much power to it. I feel that doing that definitely not only gives you that consistency that you want for like maybe your physical health, but dude, the mental sharpness is insane. I know you mentioned brain fog. I don't know what it is, but I've been hearing a lot lately of brain fog.
Mm.
Like I mean, I've heard about it a lot more, and we know the science, but like, how did that affect you? What were your symptoms like? What were you feeling like? Did it really like, ruin a lot of like your life, or like, was it like getting in the way of your work? What was going on there with you and brain fog?
Yeah. Okay. So I went through this very strange health issue back in like 2016, 2017. And I my first like cue to it was I was just like very, very tired. And I am a pretty energized person. Like I talk loud, I move my hands a lot. I'm like, I'm moving all the time. Okay. And so I was feeling like very tired a lot. And then, yeah, I started just noticing other things like my body was, I was working out, I was eating well, but I wasn't getting like toned. Like I couldn't see my muscles in my body. I was teaching a lot of hot yoga at the time. And like the final cue for me where I was like, okay, something is like going wrong was when I was teaching. Every time I would teach in the heat, I would get like all of these like red splotches all over my neck and chest. And I was like, something is wrong. Like, this is not cool. I don't normally react like this. And yeah, and so this is when the brain fog was coming in. And it was like, it was really strange. Like, I just felt like I didn't like know as much as I used to know. It was super weird. Or I'd be like trying to learn about things and like studying certain things and I like couldn't retain information. And even just like in basic conversation, I'd have a hard time like recalling facts that I know and like information that I know. It was super weird, but I didn't know what brain fog was at that time. It was all the other triggers, like my energy level and the splotchiness, and then like that muscle feeling of like, just feeling very weak, even though I knew I shouldn't have been feeling that way. Those were the things that triggered me to realize like, okay, something is off here, like something is not right. And then it was after the fact, like a couple of years later, when I really like got myself through that experience, when I started feeling like mentally clear again. And I was like, oh my God, I think I was experiencing brain fog. So I didn't know it in the moment, but afterwards, when I was finally feeling clear, I was like, yeah, that's definitely what was happening, because my eyes were brighter. Like I was literally just like ready to go. It was a lot easier to focus. It was a lot easier to talk. It was a lot easier to gather my thoughts, like the way I used to feel, like normal. I felt like good and
Yeah.
normal again.
Well, did you ever figure out what those heat things were? Like, because you still teach yoga. Like, do you teach hot yoga still? Or like, what was that? That's crazy.
Yeah. So I went to a lot of doctors during this time and essentially got zero help. It was very, very frustrating. I had a lot of people telling me, like, your tests are fine. I'm like, okay, my tests might be fine, but I know something is not right. Like, I use my body every single day for my life and my work. Like, I know that something is wrong. And I had a really hard time getting anyone to help me. So I ended up just like, and not that I would recommend people do this, but I ended up like just kind of self-diagnosing myself and playing with different healing modalities until I started feeling better. So I think it was a lot of things. I think definitely it was like big burnout, adrenal fatigue, poor gut health, like a lot of those kind of common health triggers that can add up and like accumulate. So yeah, I ended up changing a lot of things about my lifestyle, a lot of things about my diet. In fact, I had previously not been eating meat. So I reincorporated meat into my life, which was a challenge. And yeah,
Was
changed a
that
ton of stuff about my.
more of a ethical moral challenge for you?
No, I just don't always love meat.
Okay.
And I had been a vegetarian for like maybe 7 years at that point, and
Yeah.
vegan for some of that time too. So it was just hard for me to like
Yeah.
enjoy eating that again. Now I do, and I feel great. So I'm happy for that choice for me. Although I don't, some people have other choices, and that's cool for them. It's all good. Um, but yeah, so anyway, I just kind of like played with a lot of different things, and until I figured out like how to find my like homeostasis, like what feels really good for me.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
love
it
that.
sounded like all your symptoms were HPA axis dysfunction, and then I would have
Mm.
assumed that you were probably dealing with some gut dysbiosis as a result of that, just based on what you were mentioning. And it's funny that like that's kind of what you kind of like self-diagnosed to being, meaning you're probably overdoing it in all facets and endeavors. You needed to chill out and kind of cool it, especially because you're getting this additional stimulus of like being in extra hot temperatures.
Mhm.
And like again, like I and probably being undernourished, if we're being completely honest, right? Like, you just, your body is just this intricate system that has to have checks and balances. It needs enough movement, but not too much, right? Because then it's going to look to just kind of auto regulate some other processes. And those things might, again, cause the brain fog that you were experiencing. And it's like, uh, it's like the Hadza tribe, right? Like
Mm.
they talk about like these people like have, I don't know, 30,000 steps a day and crazy amounts of activity, but their actual metabolism really isn't much different than myself, Seamus, yours, right? And they're like, well, how can that be? Wouldn't more activity mean, that they're going to burn more? And it's like, well, no, like your body's going to find a way to kind of create some homeostasis. And if they're
Yeah.
not like actively doing something, they're just like sitting and like doing nothing. So that's like they're on or off effectively, that particular tribe. And I
Hmm.
find it super interesting because it's like you're dealing with people that are in the inverse reality of that, right? There's zero movement, there's nothing going on. And then they're also experiencing like that, like fatigued feeling, but they're like, how am I? And it's weird because it's like when I first thought of that too, like I got super fatigued and felt like, for lack of better terms, a fat sack of shit when we got pregnant with our son. Cause I just was like, I can't work out anymore. I went from doing like 5-6 days of training down to like 0 days. And then I was like, just eating everything, like still like as athlete self. And then I was like,
Mm.
shit, the hardest thing to do is just going for a walk. And one of my clients that I work out with now, he's like, I remember when you were, when Brittany was, when you just had Zeke, and you were taking a picture of just like walking on the track, and he thought it was like, he like brings it up. They kind of laugh at it. And I was like, no, that literally was like my workout for the day was like getting back into just walking, going from like competitive CrossFit to that. And the the different things that go on in terms of like auto regulation and what you'll then not do as a result of that. It's crazy. And I think it all does also stem from the mind, because in that time I did kind of feel like I lost a bit of my identity. And then therefore I had to constantly carve out a new one. And that's kind of like what Seamus said. And I think we're all in agreement here. Like, I can work out in the afternoon, but after doing the first thing in the morning kind of route the last 3 to 5 years, like I don't want to work out in the afternoon. Like,
No.
you know, I mean, I'm flexible with the time at times, but again, like first thing in the morning, and I felt like again, fat sack of crap on Monday because I was tired from doing a weekend competition, and I didn't even get up and go for a walk. And like the whole day ate at me. And I was like, maybe I do just need to rest today. Maybe I just needed to chill. Ironically, I bet you if I woke up and got that walk in, my weight would have been like normalized to what it had been for the previous weeks. But this week I've actually like done far less. Like, I mean, I've been sitting on my ass. Like I'm getting like I had a couple days, four to 6,000 steps. And
This is
Seamus
a
knows like
movement
that's,
podcast today, Marcos. Come on. I'm just kidding.
I know. Well, it's funny. Well, again, like this is where balance is like super crucial. Knowing when body's giving you signs to just kind of eat a little more and relax. And again, like I'm still not just completely sitting there, but it's low activity for me. And then, but after kind of giving myself up until today, like I'm like craving movement. I'm craving getting my body like to, get through the air, like, and like just be able to get connected, like again, like outdoors. Like the part of the morning walks on Mondays and Fridays for me is that I'm outside. Like that's the thing that I think helps me feel most connected, and also connected to like like movement practice days, because those are not training days. Those are like activity days, and they go a long way. They do a great job of regulating my like weight, my appetite, my mood, like everything that you're discussing. Like so powerful. And sometimes I even do it in terms of this total time. Like today, I think I had 90 to 115 minutes worth of movement, or, whatever it was this morning. Might have been overkill, but I'm like, I just feel good. I feel like I'm just gonna go for a walk. I actually did some running first and then went to walking, I'm like, so be it. But the idea of practicing these things and understanding how to titrate it, and going back to like your idea of like the calendar, right? Sounds like all of us block out X amount of time, each morning to be able to accommodate for that. But you've now found that person that said 25 minutes 3 days a week is all I can commit to right now. But I'm sure that person looks completely different. I mean, has that person worked with you for a while? Has that evolved? What does that evolution look like for somebody, for you?
Yeah, it does evolve. Sometimes it takes time, but it generally does evolve. We usually start very small, just like that. And then a few months in, people can find time, usually time every day. If it's someone who starts out with like a couple of days a week, the next step is to get it every day, even if it's maybe a little less time. And then from there, we usually push the time limit. And then it's like, okay, now once you have a little more time, then we start also like pushing the intensity of what the types of movement are. But certainly I like you were just saying, you know, valuing like the other types of movement, like games and spending time outdoors, and like that's movement too. Like if one of my clients, for example, like wants to go play tennis with her kid on a Saturday, that's great. Maybe I'd also recommend that she do like a 20-minute or 25-minute stretch video that I have at the end of that, or a core video before that, something to like engage the muscles in a more proper way. But like that movement is so valuable for not just your body, but your mind as well. That it's a key component of like maintaining the joyfulness of your movement practice. Like you want it to be, or like I want my clients to experience what you experienced this morning, where it was like you were craving movement, like you wanted to move your body, so you went and did it, and like that felt good to you and satisfying. It's like that actually takes people a long time to get to that point, to like genuinely crave movement and want to go do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is coming full circle now, because Katie and I asked Katie, I'm like, Katie, why is it that I'm just like aching to go to the gym sometimes? Craving is the word for it. Now it comes full circle. So you and Katie are on the same wavelength. But I was telling her, like, this is actually probably like the week or two before the half marathon that I did. And I think I guess I might have just been peaking, right, Marcos? I was like, I'm ready to, let's go, like I was just craving, let's just kill it. But something that you just said there, when clients start to crave, it's, as coaches, I think one of the things that we bias maybe is like, oh, structure, routine, what the science says, what Huberman says,
Mm,
what that says. Yeah, I think what's powerful there is just to be like, yeah, what do they like? What did they like to do? And I don't think it needs to be this perfectly structured thing. And I think just the practice in itself, I think that word practice too is so powerful because it's like, it's practice. It's not a test.
yes.
It's not pass or
Mm.
fail. It's, hey, it's a practice. It didn't go well today. Or you know what? There's some things that went well, some things that we need to adjust for. Boom. I think that gives a lot more leeway because I think sometimes people might want to start their fitness and programming. I know Marcos and I have been dealing with these personalities because we talk about it every day, but like dealing with personalities that are like, Seamus, I want the perfect plan. I want this. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? They're like, I need this meal plan or I need this exercise plan. I need everything set. And I'm like, you just told me, like talking about the calendar exercise or like the time exercise, that like you're struggling with, like, you don't have enough time, or like you don't even have experience cooking this food, or like you've been overweight for this long, or like even haven't exercised, and you're telling me you want the perfect thing right now. It's like, why don't we just start with like understanding how to build a plate, or like understanding like what it means to go for a walk, like first, like so we could create the timing, the stimulation of like you getting used to like, oh, this time is my sacred time for the gym or movement or cooking my meals. And then we could start building you up into a routine, a habit, and then go, okay, now let's make a meal plan for the week, or let's make a thing. And I think people sometimes have this hijacking of goals where they're like, I need the perfect answer now and I need to do it now. And it's like, yeah, but you're not ready for that. Like
Hmm.
you haven't built the skills for that,
Yeah, I am a big, big, big fan of building blocks and foundational steps. I have seen it happen too many times where people will go like all in right away. It's like 7 days a week, 75-minute workouts, like 5 of those days at the gym, no recovery days. It's like all these things. And then, yeah, this like super, super clean eating, like no room for any treats or anything. And it's like, like they
Mm.
go 3 weeks later, they're done, and then it takes so much time for you to bring it back in. I am much more a fan of like the long game. Like we are building consistent practices that are not going to be a part of your life for just the 3 months. Like these are going to be a part of your life for the rest of your life. I, yeah, I'm not a big fan of being like, I can help you lose like this many pounds in this amount of time. Like that's like, you would never hear me say that to anyone. I'm helping people incorporate practices that I hope will allow them to live a longer, healthier, and happier life as well.
Yeah, we build health and wellness practices, Seamus and I. I mean, it's funny. I like,
Yeah.
never even thought of it as like a practice for other people, but like with the coach's watchful eye, like again, it's like, hey, I'm going to give you all these tools that you can then practice and utilize over years from now, not just this interim period. This unbeknownst amount of time that we're going to spend together. But I do know that you're going to need these fundamental tools, and then you're going to be the one to make the decision. It's where I've even been like, for my like dieting practice, I start February versus January now.
Mm.
Fuck the New Year's, New Year, New Me thing, because guess what? I still need it's like I need that holiday from my holiday, which is basically fucking January, to then be able to actually commit to like dieting. So I just like, you know what? I'll get these certain elements like in order. I'll get my food, my activity, my this, that, and the other, like a little bit upregulated because, during holiday season, there's some fried food and some stuff that like just sits a little heavy in the gut. And then they're still lingering. That's like, oh man, I've got all this leftover like cookies and whatever. I just want to eat that, just because some arbitrary day, 1/1 really means you got to like get rid of it. It's like, no, I'd rather like enjoy it, eat it, and then find ways to like actually like maybe dial in a little bit later. So at the end of the day, like again, it's a, like you said, it's a practice. It's a thing that like each year you can kind of view things like, if you want to do it on like a quarterly audit system or a monthly one, whatever that is, like, there's probably certain things that you should like kind of get in tune with and be able to look back on. And again, I think, word of the day is really audit a lot of stuff of yourself so you can be able to actually like progress with things. And like you just said, just like, hey, go from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7. Like you don't go from 3 to 7 in terms of days with having your activity. And just adding, previously I used to think 5-day training splits were like superior to 3 days. Actually, I find far more consistency with people with 3 for the longevity of a program. And then I like, okay, cool. I want to go from 3 to 5. I was like, whoa. Again, let's try 4. And everybody that goes from 3 to 4, sometimes they're just like, like I'm becoming inconsistent. And now they've gone from having 3 days consistently to only 2 days a week because they feel like they're missing stuff. It's so weird how like that negative momentum goes the other way.
It's so weird too, Marcos, where like one of the things that we talk about is biofeedback, right? And you've been getting this good biofeedback from someone, right? You've been watching their stress, their stomach, their sleep and all this stuff. And it's like they're doing good at 3. They're probably ready to progress to 4. I've literally seen people just decide to jump the gun from 3 to 5. And then they're like, Seamus, I don't know what happened, but like my hunger is way off. Like my sleep is this. And it's just like, yeah, dude, like you jumped the gun and now everything's dysregulated because it's like you didn't do like a good progression. You kind of jumped, and now you're kind of like you overstepped your boundaries, or you kind of chew too much. You bit too much that you can chew. So it's sometimes you got to be a little bit smarter with your progressions, right?
I mean, we could talk about my running experience for 8 weeks. I thought that like just doing 1 day a week and adding a kilometer wouldn't be much, or 2 wouldn't be much. And then my feet started like literally hating me. So that was just purely distance. That wasn't even adding an extra day. Like it's crazy. Like, but again, like biofeedback and, assessing what's going on and looking back at what may have caused something, or, why that week wasn't as good. It's like you were saying, like being patient and like the time that people may actually get from that 3 days of 25 to 4 days or a daily movement practice. Like I've now seen it. I mean, with nutrition coaching, sometimes it does take like a year of laying foundational frameworks and some, again, like hard conversations and struggles and me not forcing it on people. And then, year 2 is when they just crush it. But again, like I'm never trying to sell somebody on a 24-month program, because then they think it's way too long. Like we're going to try to see how how you can adapt and how you feel and, slow this thing in. And it's insane. Like, cause I mean, I have one person I can think of and she's done fantastic work and she gets better every year. But the first year it was like stagnant, but she built all those foundational things. And, I have to constantly remind her, and that's our job as coaches, remind like, hey, remember when you first started here and like this movement was hard for you, I'm sure. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, right, Caitlyn? Like
definitely. That's a common theme that we talk about because, once you make progress, you forget like where you started. And so, yeah, often I have to remind, like I have a client who, when we first started working together, I mean, I will never forget our first class because it was so gentle. We did not get off of the floor. It was like very chill stretching. There was a lot of emotions. We talked a lot at the end of it. It was very, very gentle, but now she's like, she holds planks, she lifts weights, we do functional strength training, and there's still so much for her to grow. But like in 2 years, like that's a ton of progress. And so, you can feel those moments when your clients feel like they've kind of stalled a little bit. And it's like, well, okay, maybe, but we're kind of like laying the foundation to take that next leap again, right? Like we started at a place that was so much lower than where you are now. So
yeah, and we're just so hard on ourselves, especially when it comes to analytical data. Like got another client that's been crushing it for years, looks amazing, and she's just so hard on herself. It's part of her personality, and she just wants to be a better, which I love about her, and she is a very like happy person. And but we did a DEXA scan and I'm like, hey, like you're at 30%. We don't even know what your starting number was, so it's like I'm like, it's hard to assess how much you've changed. I don't know if you were actually looking at like a 50-50 split of body fat to muscle tissue, and chances are it probably was pretty close to that. I don't think that she's gained or lost a lot of muscle, but she's at like 107 pounds of like lean tissue as a female, which is fantastic.
Whoa, that's actually pretty good, dude.
It's really, I told her that. I was like, you have a lot of muscle mass. But then she felt dejected about this. She's like, yeah, but I'm still 30% of my weight's fat. And I was like, again, like I didn't have that first number, but like you lost 20% of the weight from this particular number. And like, I was like, again, trying to remind those starting points. And I know that she genuinely tries to like stay up to date with like and listen to our show. So I want to just give her a shout out for all the great job and like the work that she's put in over the last like 3 years. Cause same thing, like this is a journey. And I know that she's going to have an even better result going into swimsuit season next year, because she had to buy new swimsuits for the start of the season and at the end of the season, which was literally last weekend, like because it was a birthday party for friends. Right. So this journey and this timeline, enjoy the effing journey. Let's just tell everybody, like, enjoy the freaking journey of like you get to start doing these things because you want to, versus just being like the destination is to have this thing so solidified. It's like, no, let's be flexible too. Let's
But
focus on
there's no
practices.
solidified health, dude. There's no like, dude. I feel like performance health, like Caitlyn, you could probably say like with your health too. Like, once you got over that slump of brain fog and all that stuff, it's like at that point you're just probably just thinking, I just need to get over this thing. I'll be solid when I get there. And then once you got there, you're like, what's the next mountain? There's no like solidified version of health. It's so weird.
It's so true. I mean, exactly like you were just saying, Marcus, like it is a journey and there's always going to be a new layer. And even sometimes like when you feel like you're in this like prime health, that's when like life throws you something crazy, and then it's like, okay, how do you manage your health and your stress and then this like life thing, whatever it is that's happening. So it's a journey, and I think it's beautiful that like, I mean, it's a blessing that we're here, right? It's a blessing that we can move our bodies and we can breathe and we can, put ourselves out in nature. Like that is something to be grateful for and to not forget.
Yeah.
1,000%. And guys, I do apologize, but I have to get my son from school and cut this episode, a little bit shorter than an hour, which usually never happens, Caitlyn, but
no worries.
Dad duty calls. So
yes.
I can excuse myself if there's a few other questions you still have, Seamus, or if we want to wrap it up.
Yeah, I'll let you go. I'll finish
perfect.
off with Caitlyn. That way we're all good. But thank you, Marcos, for being here. We'll let you go, and Caitlyn and I will finish off here in just a few moments.
Sweet.
Thanks,
All
Marcus.
right. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
So yeah, Caitlyn, I think like that's a great segue. I was gonna just kind of touch upon this before because I know we're coming up on an hour. Like deep health is just we talk about we're talking about fitness, and then you're talking about positive psychology. There's that mental component, there's the emotional health, but also there's like the environmental health. You just said like nature, right? I mean, there's spiritual health, and then there's financial health, or like there's all these aspects of health that like, okay, yeah, you may be good in one department, but like, I think one of the best quotes is like, show me like someone with like a great career, a great body, and like a great family. Those, you want to be like that person, but then it's like sometimes it's a trade-off. Someone has the great body, but they don't have a great career. Like they don't have good like career acumen because it's like all they care about is the body. Or someone that's like, oh, I'm family oriented, but they don't know anything about fitness because it's like they just give their time. So it's like finding like a balance of like those components is super difficult. But anyways, yes, I wanted to just highlight a few more things, Caitlyn. Like, tell us about the courses that you have, or just kind of like the free offers that you have, so the audience can kind of find that, and if they want to work with you in one way, shape, or form, and then maybe get on your calendar and maybe work one-on-one, let them know how they can do that.
Yeah, cool. So I have a free guided meditation that I'll send with you guys. Maybe you can put it in the show notes. It's actually a savoring meditation. So I'll talk you through an 8-minute, meditation on how to savor an experience, and it's really good for just focusing your mind and focusing your energy. I like it particularly in the middle of the day. Anytime you want to do it is nice, but I know meditation a lot of times gets blocked in the morning or the evening. But for this particular meditation, I like it in the middle of the day.
Savoring meditation. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll send that to you. I also do 30-minute free calls, movement, and I call them flow and focus sessions. So we'll do a little intake form. I'd set up a movement practice for you, and we'll talk through one kind of like mindset transformation technique that you can start to employ. I am now taking on some new clients for my one-on-one coaching program, which I'm calling the Movement and Mindset Breakthrough. We do live coaching classes, like movement training. And then I implement personalized weekly movement plans for you. We use this like shared calendar system. So I upload into the calendar every single day what your workout's going to be for that day. I'll put a link to a specific video, and or put a different type of movement on there. And yeah, hold you accountable to that. So I am taking in some new clients for that practice, and in general, just looking to connect with more people right now, and share what is, I think, a really powerful piece of not just training your body, but also learning how to train your mind as well, so that this can become a consistent and joyful piece of your life in a long-standing way. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's crazy, for the people listening, like we kind of take for granted like this internet landscape, but like you have this amazing, thought leader here, and this person that could coach you up, and you could be anywhere around the world listening to this, be like, you know what, I do need movement and focus, and this stuff, and I need someone to keep me accountable. I'll work with them. So it's like it's cool to have that. Like just many years ago, you couldn't be this connected to somebody that's like an expert in their field in a specific thing and has many hours teaching yoga or being dance, and it's like boom, now you do, and it's like such a blessing. And it's like just be grateful for that fact. Like, dude, you can do that now, and then you can work, and like they're able to work with you. So if that's somebody here listening, like, and you vibe with Caitlyn, go ahead and just give her some love. We'll put that into the show notes and stuff like that. But yeah, Caitlyn, this is an awesome hour. I definitely love everything that you're talking about, movement as medicine, like a movement practice. I mean, these are the things that we talk about all the time with my patient base, with the clientele that I work with, and it's just really cool to hear it from somebody else. And picking your brain on just your journey, your health journey too, just it reinforces like, oh man, we all struggle. We found a way to come out of that, and also at the same time, it's like I think here in the United States that we are all coming to a certain conclusion that like we have to be the shepherds of our own health, because I don't know if
Mm.
our communities or our governments or whatever it is are going to be responsible for that. So we kind of have to figure it out on our own independently at some point. And it's really cool to have people like you being able to be shepherds of that as well online in certain thought forms. So appreciate you.
Yeah.
Other than that, guys, macro perspective. Thanks so much, Caitlyn. We'll give her some love. Put some, in the comments, share, like, and subscribe, guys. Thanks so much, Caitlyn. Thank you for being on.
Thank you so much, Seamus. This was awesome. Thank you.
Yes.